I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. There's another paid request, this time from Joseph. Thank you so much for that. Anyone who wants to request any other type of videos, reviews, topics, re-reviews, reactions, random, me playing a game, pretty much anything, feel free to request it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, I think I had a review of this up at some point, but I don't know what happened to it. And this is Fright Night Part 2, but this is the one done in around 2013. Now, to recap, I love the original Fright Night. The original Fright Night is, without a doubt, one of my favorite vampire films. It's up there with From Dusk Till Dawn and The Lost Boys, John Carpenter's Vampires. But I love Fright Night. To me, it's a classic. I love Roddy McDowall, William Ragsdale, Chris Sarandon, Stephen Jeffries, the soundtrack, the effects, the relatability of Charlie Brewster, the idea of taking the rear window motif, but what if the person across the street is a vampire? Tom Holland's direction, which then he would do Child's Play a few years later. Fright Night Part 2 in 1988, I think is a worthy sequel. The way it begins, it's a bit iffy with, he thought because of a psychologist that it didn't really happen. That was a long stretch. That was really thin and weak. But the rest of the story I liked, where he gets bitten and he's slowly being seduced to becoming a vampire by this female vampire. I still like seeing Roddy McDowall in there again. The vampire crew, you have the bad guy from Stallone's Cobra, you have, the guy who was in Napoleon Dynamite, I used to know their names, Brian Thompson and John Grease, I believe. I like the vampire crew when they're bowling to In the Midnight Hour, and then the bowling ball grabs it, it's a head. Brian Thompson getting all the insects and giving their technical name and eating them, and the way these characters got taken out. The ending with the elevator shaft and some really good makeup effect. I do enjoy Fright Night Part 2. I think it's an underrated sequel. Now, the remake I was not a fan of. In retrospect, I think Anton Yelchin and I think David Tennant. In retrospect, I think they're doing the best that they can, but I thought that the direction was fairly weak. The over-reliance of CGI was unfortunate because it made the film look garbage. In comparison to the original two Fright Nights with some really solid makeup effects, that I think a lot of it A lot of it holds up today. But the CGI was just garbage. And I think Anton Yelchin and David Tennant, in retrospect, did the best they could. But the way the characters are written, Charlie Brewster kind of came off as a douche with the way he treated the Evil Ed character in that movie. And then David Tennant, the way he was written. I don't blame the actors, the way he was written. I don't know, just... And Colin Farrell... Hey, bro, want some brewskis, bro? Like, dude, bro. Vampire style. That's what Colin Farrell said. Hey, dude. Hey, bro. Want some brewskis? No. And just some ridiculous fucking scenes in that. The one girl screaming. And it's supposed to be a horrifying moment. But it's like, and then she runs outside. Because of the sunlight. It came out more laughable than I'm sure it was supposed to. But I think because the way it was directed. The way the CG looked. I'm just not a fan of the remake of Fright Night. Now, this is called Fright Night Part 2, but it's not a sequel. It's not a sequel. It's another reboot. It's another remake, even though it's called Fright Night Part 2, but it's another remake. Only this time, it's Charlie, Amy, and Evil Ed. They've gone to Romania, because they're on this school class trip. And Romania, I'm sorry, maybe it's just, I'm getting tired of movies being shot in places like that because you just know they're shooting it there because it's a cheaper budget. And for me, that just takes away from the tone of Fright Night. Fright Night, I think of as being in your neighborhood that you can relate to. And you don't get that in this. I can't relate to the statues and places of Romania compared to Fright Night or even the original Fright Night 2. And I'll admit, I don't know if this will be a rant yet, I'll be honest, because there are merits to the film, if I'm going to be honest. I don't know, like 5-6 minutes in. Because the story is, I mentioned they're in Romania. Their teacher is Jerry Dandridge, who's a lady. And this Charlie Brewster finds out that she's a vampire. Not only that, she's pretty much... Elizabeth Bathory. The lady, virgin blood, in the tub, replenish your youth. He finds out, she toys with them. At one point, they hire Peter Vincent, who in this movie is a guy that had one of those ghost shows, ghost adventurer type of shows, ghost hunter shows. They hire him while he's at a strip club. And, things ratchet up there. I'll get to more in a minute, but there are moments that are alright. The beginning of the film. This figure in cloak, who is a vampire, is chasing this random girl into this gas station. And we see through camera footage. She's being dragged around, but because it's camera footage, we don't see the vampire, so we see the person being dragged around, bounced around. Interesting idea to open up the movie that way. There is a point where you hear and see the backstory of Elizabeth Bathory. It's done in comic book form, but imagine the comic book form is done in animation. Another interesting idea. A different way of showcasing the backstory. Not just someone talking exposition, not just filming, no, showing in that comic book animation, okay, something you don't expect. The idea of a point where Charlie and the girl are running through these tunnels, kind of the sewer system, and in order our vampire to find them, she uses sonar, like echolocation. She does it. And the camera moves through the tunnels and it's blinking lights. I guess that's the sonar echolocation. Although the way it's shot, it seemed as if... So, is her doing this, making it lights appear? I don't know. I mean, maybe it was shot like they did in Daredevil, where the sound like reverberate. I think if you remember the 2003 film Daredevil, where it's a different filter. I don't know, just the idea could be interesting, but it does look weird when your villain is going. That was a bit goofy, and it did make me laugh. I get the idea. I kind of like the idea, but the way it's executed is like the weird. It just feel a little bit funny. Again, your main villain's going. It's just funny as shit. But I mean, there are moments, but I wasn't a fan of the film. I wasn't a fan of the film. I did not like the characters. I did not like the fact it was another retread where Charlie looks across, sees someone who's a vampire. There's a moment where the vampire could kill him, but lets him go. Toss the Evil Ed. Evil Ed goes, they get Peter Vincent. Peter Vincent goes in, gets scared, runs off. Then Evil Ed gets bitten. Then Charlie and Amy get chased by the vampire. Then the girl gets taken. Then Charlie goes to Peter Vincent. I need your help. Peter Vincent says, no, I cannot. Charlie off on his own. Peter Vincent arrives later. Defeat the vampire so that Amy is no longer a vampire anymore. Yeah, it's a different setting. And it's not a carbon copy. But you're still hitting a lot of the same beats. So it just becomes a retread. That, I'm sorry, was never needed in the first place. It wasn't needed in the first remake. It wasn't needed in this remake. Because that's really what it is. It's a remake. Or reimagining. Or whatever the fuck do you want to call it. People say it's not. What I just explained, that is what happens in the movie. Now again, I'm not saying it's a carbon copy, but this is what happens. You know what? If you got a really good actor as Evil Ed, and Charlie Brewster gets killed, and now it's Evil Ed, the best friend and a girlfriend, and there's no romance, there's no love story, but then they gotta deal with this. Or it's more Peter Vincent's story. And you get a really good guy, good actor, and make Peter Vincent really interesting, and then it's more of his point of view. Like, what if the whole movie is from his point of view of Fright Night? That's mean you should change it up even more. Or just make your own fucking film and not deal with the Fright Night name. And like I said, I wouldn't call this one of the worst sequels ever, because there are moments, and unlike the previous film, it doesn't overload it with CGI, to be fair. But I did not like any of the actors. The lead guy had a derp face, rat nose, and coiffed hair, ready to cover his fucking eye as the old man. I'm like, cut your fucking hair. And this was boring to me. He was wooden. I didn't give two shits about his fate. I didn't give two shits. As much as I did not like the previous Fright Night remake, Anton Yelchin I liked as an actor. May he rest in peace. The way the character is written, but the acting, I liked him more than this guy as an actor. This guy I did not care for as an actor. Evil Ed in this, I like Christopher Mintz-Plasse in the previous remake. I did not like this guy who played Evil Ed. I thought he was annoying. That was irritating. Saying lines like, check out the blood bags on that, Brewster. Or, she smoked it fucking hot, you dick face. Did not care for that. The music, I wasn't a big fan of. The one piece of music I remember was that one of the first instances of Charlie seeing the vampire was at Descend and put a body in a car. He runs out to the street and you have this over-the-top choir music. I just think of the music in the first two Fright Night films. The score by Brad Fiedel. How good that was. And then you just hear in that one fucking scene, man. I'm like, this is so over the top. It's more funny than anything. The guy who plays Peter Vincent didn't give two shits about him. Didn't give two shits about he had a ghost hunter show. I mean, nothing about the... Okay, it's a ghost hunter show, but nothing about that was really done with it to make it interesting or clever. He's doing a ghost hunter show. At one point early on, you realize it's a fake show. He likes to go to a strip club. They offer money. He does it. And he's, to me, an unlikable character. Because he goes with them on the subway, sees the vampire, her eyes change. He immediately walks out of the subway, doesn't warn the characters, doesn't warn them, get out of here. Doesn't say anything. He just looks, he steps back out, like, hey, what are you doing? And he doesn't say shit. Doesn't say shit. Just walks out and leaves. Doesn't try to help. Doesn't care. Wow, what a piece of shit. Now I'm thinking, I hope this motherfucker dies. Because you didn't warn these three people, get out of here. Anything. I think back to Roddy McDowall's Peter Vincent. He would have done something. Even in a steered form, he would have warned them, let's go. Then, oh yeah, another thing. Evil Ed attacking Peter Vincent. Just like in the original, you had in this. Only he was in a bathroom, and Peter Vincent has a fucking tattoo of a cross on his chest, and he presses Evil Ed's face to his chest and says something like, kiss the cross or something. So imagine Evil Ed's face is being pressed to Peter Vincent's buff chest. He must work out. And so he gets, some pizza on his face. And I think Evil Ed said, ooh, dude, that was gross. Fucking whatever, man. And then when Charlie finds Peter Vincent at this club, he's wearing Peter Vincent's wearing like a yellow leopard pimp suit. It's like yellow with black spots. I'm like, did you kill? What the fuck is this? It looked goofy. And of course he doesn't want to go out. He doesn't want to go out in his yellow leopard fucking pimp's outfit. And then when Charlie goes by himself, and Peter Vincent honestly did not even need to be in this film. He's this close to being inconsequential. Part of me is like, just don't have him in the film. Oh, but it's Fright Night. That's what I mean. You don't need a Fright Night movie. Or a Fright Night remake, I should say. But he's so inconsequential. I mean, this Charlie, he fights Evil Ed, kills him by putting holy water down his throat. He's taken to this pool of blood because our female vampire thinks Amy is the chosen one, where if I need to bite you, you're turned, but then I need you to kill someone you love, and somehow that will make me powerful enough I don't have to worry about daylight anymore. Whatever. So then Charlie like fakes that he states himself, but then he's really alive. Then he tries to kill. He fucks up. And then Peter Vincent comes in, does one thing, throws his weapon into the back of the vampire. Doesn't work because misses the heart. So then she chokes Peter Vincent out. Charlie does that fucking goofy twittering again, which breaks the glass, burns the fucking bitch. Thus, no more vampire, and that's how the movie ends. I'm like, wow, Peter Vincent was this close to fucking being useless, completely useless. And did you think back to Roddy McDowall, how badass he is. He dealt with Evil Ed, he killed Evil Ed, eased his suffering, went back in when Charlie was knocked out. Peter Vincent, vampire. He looks at the house, and Roddy McDowall looks at the stage. He's like, walks in by himself, gets Charlie out, shoots the guy, being tapped by the vampire bat, blots it, pushes up, burns the fucker, face off against Jerry Dandridge in the basement. They really were a team. You did none of that in this. But of course, if I ask for the same thing, then it's like, well, you're asking for a Xerox. I understand that questioning, but then it just makes me go, why the fuck do you... Why even have a Peter Vincent in this? If you want to be so different from Fright Night, just don't have a Peter Vincent. Have Evil Ed be that. Okay, have Evil Ed be that. Evil Ed is a guy who knows vampire stuff. You get his help, and Charlie and Evil Ed go try to save Amy. There you go. You might as well. But the actors, I didn't care for their performances. I didn't care for them as characters. I didn't care for them how they were written. Peter Vincent was just a douchebag who barely did shit. Evil Ed was an annoying fucking prick. Well, I wouldn't call him a prick, but just annoying, irritating. And yes, this is kind of a guy that likes Stephen Jeffries in the Fright Night. I know. I found this one annoying. Ooh, it's a female vampire. You know what? I got that in the original Fright Night Part 2. Which I know my friend Michael CP, he likes this more than the original Fright Night 2. I'm sorry, I disagree. I don't agree with that at all. I think the original Fright Night... I mean, it's cool if he thinks that way. He did a review of this. I know he likes this more than the 88 Fright Night Part 2. We agree to disagree on that. We agree to disagree because... Again, I thought that one had a better story, set of villains. Roddy McDowall, William Rasdale, I thought worked well together. There were actual characters I liked. The music was better. Here, aside from a couple interesting ideas that I wish were in a better movie. I wish were in a better movie, these 4 or 5 things. Because, I'm sorry, those 4 or 5 things were now worth an hour and 40 minutes of this. Just a tired retread. It doesn't help that I don't give a shit about the characters. The actors did not impress me. And despite the little differences, it's still basic skeleton is following beat for beat the original Fright Night. And funny enough, if you were to ask me which I would rather watch, I got more mad at the Colin Farrell remake. But sadly, I would rather watch that than this because that one, the setting, Anton Yelchin, David Tennant, not so much the characters, but at least the acting is better in that. At least I think the actors are better than the actors in this. Which I know is strange, but... Actually, I think both of these fucking suck ass. I take that back. I'll just go watch the original Fright Night movies. Just go watch Fright Night 1 and 2. That's what I'd rather do. Again, someone's going to ask me, which do I like more, this or the previous remake? I said the previous remake, but now I'm thinking about it more. I don't know. I don't know. Because one, I think, has better actors and a better setting, while this has more interesting ideas and a lot less CGI. I don't know, man. I don't know. When it got to the point where Peter Vincent throws the device, thinking he killed the lead vampire and said, "Welcome to the Fright Night for real, bitch," I just went, oh my god. Give me a fucking break, man. So I would say this is more like a review / rant. Kind of a mix of both. Because if you've been on my channel a lot, I kind of have like different things. Like if there's rant, or rant in big letters, or epic rant, or like a review / rant is kind of like a mixed opinion. And this is sort of a mixed opinion on this. I would say I more dislike it than like it. So take that for what you will. It didn't need to be made. And you know what? If I want to watch a direct-to-video vampire film, I'll go watch Lost Boys 3. Lost Boys to Thirst. To me, that's a much better, more entertaining direct-to-video sequel and vampire film. Lost Boys to Thirst. It's a little bit underrated. I think it's much better than this. Just my opinion. And it's not the worst sequel. Some interesting ideas. I just wish they were in a better movie with a much better cast and much better characters. Because the way they're written, the way they're acted, I could not give a shit. And if I don't give a shit, then I don't give a shit about your story. Do not give a fuck about anybody in this movie. And that's one of the best things about the original 2 Fright Nights. I really liked and care for those characters. That's what makes those films stand out. Maybe that's just me. So we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.